Autumn season, I'm so excited. I love this season because it's so cozy. I think it's such a perfect time for reading. And here I have some book recommendations for the perfect books to read during the autumn season. So the first book I've got is a classic. It's called Daisy Miller by Henry James. This book takes place in Geneva, Switzerland, and it's about this man who comes across this young American woman who kind of fits that American princess stereotype for this time period, Daisy Miller. Daisy Miller is flirty, young and fun, and she kind of turns his world upside down. I think this book, even though it's written by a man, it did a really good way of portraying the male gaze and how it fails to see the humanity of women and young girls, because at first glance you think she's this silly little girl who likes to flirt a bit too much, but once you read it you start to see how men kind of miss the mark, and the scenery is stunning. That's why I think it's perfect for autumn. It's a short read, like 120 something pages. It's really easy to read, and what I love about this book is it really makes you think and see from the perspective of how a man would view a woman, because it is written by a man. It's very male gazy, but it's meant to be like that. It's not because the author's aware that the character is this man who cannot see a woman beyond her looks and beyond her perceived sexuality. And I think this book did a really good job of kind of breaking that down. The next book I have is Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. I hope I've said that correctly. I probably haven't, and apologies to anyone who is Japanese. But this book, it's everywhere and it's so popular for all the right reasons. So it takes place in this Japanese cafe that allows people to time travel. So a customer comes in and they order a specific type of tea that lets them go back in time. But of course it's never that easy. The way the magic system works is there are specific rules, and one of them is you have to come back before the coffee gets cold. I wouldn't say this is a collection of short stories, but it feels like it because it does focus on 4 different characters with their 4 different set of stories, and you kind of see their experience with this time traveling cafe. This book covers grief, loss, love and regret in the most poetic way. I think it's perfect for cozy reads. The way Kawaguchi describes these characters and their stories, it feels so real. It's almost as if you could see yourself in that position, and it really makes you think about, if you could go back in time, would it have changed anything anyway? I just think it's such a short, easy, cozy read, and you should definitely pick it up. The next book I have is 10 minutes and 38 seconds in the Strange World by Elif Shafak. I don't have a physical cover of this. So this story follows our main character, Tequila Layla, and she's dead. Not a spoiler, she's dead. And she has about 10 minutes and 38 seconds left before she officially leaves this earth. And in that time, we get to read through her life, her experiences. It's just such a poetic read. The language and the poetic way this author brings things together is just so beautiful. I love beautiful writing. The storytelling, you really immerse yourself in the culture of Istanbul. It's set in Turkey, and it makes the city come alive. I've never been to Turkey, but it feels like I've been to Turkey just because of the book. It's so descriptive and harrowing and dark. There's also an aspect of found family, which I absolutely adored. What I love about the way this book is written is the way we have these marginalized communities who kind of come together, and them having to kind of stand against the rest of the world and claim their own. The challenges and the hardship these characters go through. I cried. This book is gonna make you cry, okay? And we all love books that make us cry for some reason. I don't know, we like masochists? Is that even how you say that word? Masochist? Masochism? Anyway, that word. The way the author was able to talk about these difficult, real themes that people go through in such a delicate and humane way, it just warmed my heart. My next recommendation is An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. This book is already pretty popular, and there's a reason why it's very popular. So it has one of the most unique plot I've ever read in a fantasy book. This book follows our main character Isabel, who is a portrait artist, and one day the Autumn Prince, who is Fae, comes in and asks for a portrait. And Isabel paints sorrow in his eyes, which is a huge no-no for the Fae Kingdom. If you are familiar with Fae, you know that they are quite devious, mischievous. They're meant to be portrayed as strong and dangerous and superior to humans. So her drawing sorrow in his eyes completely shatters that. The Autumn Prince Rook is not having it. He's so frustrated that he decides to take Isabel away to their land, to the Fae land, for trial. Look at this cover. It's such a wonderful autumn read. I mean, he's called the Autumn Prince. Does it get any more fitting than that? But also the scenery, it's just so cozy and whimsical. And another thing I love about this book is just the texture. I don't know if this is different for different types or different countries, but here in England, this is the type I got, and it's just so, it's so floppy. And it doesn't leave creases. And don't get me wrong, I love hardcovers, but they're just so uncomfortable to hold. This one, it just, look at that. Oh, okay. Just look at that. Just look at that. A book I recently read is October by Katja Ballon. This is such an adorable book. I would say it's more middle grade, elementary type of read. It's not for adults or young adults, but I think there's nothing wrong with reading books aimed for younger people. Can we just talk about the cover? Like, the cover, it's so pretty. Oh my gosh, sorry. So it's about our main character, October, who lives in the woods with her dad, and they're good. They're vibing, you know, chopping the wood and whatever people do who live off-grid do. But suddenly her dad...
Unfortunately, I somehow lost footage. This is the second video where this has happened. Like, just newbie things, I guess. But what I was going to say is October's dad ends up in a horrible accident, forcing October to leave her comfort zone, which is the woods. She has to move to London with her mother, and she does not have a very good relationship with her mum, and she does not like the city at all.
The story transports us to October's world, where she's trying to navigate moving to a new city, having her dad in hospital and going to school, which is something she's never done before, and having to let go of her wild nature. For me anyway, this book was sort of a metaphor for growing up and losing your inner child and the fear of that. And I think it's just, I adore this book. And the illustration is so beautiful. Like, wow. And it's called October. We're in October. Well, I think by the time I upload this, it will be October. So the last book on my list is The Mercies by Kieran Millwood Hargrave. Again, I don't have this book physically because I borrowed it from the library, so I will put it up on the screen somewhere. This is one of the first books I read for September. So it's about this island in Norway called Vardø, where a storm completely wipes out all the men as they go out sailing. It just, brothers, husbands, fathers are all gone, and now it's just an island of women. And for a while they kind of adjust and they manage it. A few years later, this man comes and he believes that the storm was caused by witchcraft by one of the women on the island, and it just turns everyone into a frenzy, pointing fingers at each other. I would say it's a story of love, grief, witches. Before I even get into the story, I know I've said this about so many books, but this author writes so beautifully. It felt like I was reading poetry or like a love letter. Just the descriptions used to describe the island, how vivid everything felt and how whimsical and terrifying the natural world around them was. These women are still grieving, and I just completely fell in love with the story, the way it's written. It turns out it's based off a natural storm that happened in Norway. So yeah.
I really enjoyed making this video and getting ready for the autumn season. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I wish you a good day or evening or night wherever you are.